Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Lazy Entrepreneur. We're your hosts, Sam and Em Priestley.
Hello.
Emma, today I wanted to tell you a bit more about my experiences gambling.
Sounds good.
I wanted to talk about a 6-month period towards the end of my career where we built a pretty big business by this point and we were looking for ways to expand. And we were looking at sort of more creative ways to do that.
Oh, does this involve disguises?
It might involve disguises.
Yay! This I find particularly silly.
So at the time, we were making money through arbitrage. So we would find 2 different bookies that disagreed on their prices, and we'd be able to place bets on either one and lock in a profit. And the problem we quickly came across was that as soon as you start making money at the bookies, they close down your account. And so there's ways around that, as in you can try and bet a bit more subtly so they don't notice. And then another thing we later on doing is we would build software that people would use to place the bets. And then we basically build up a syndicate. So we would give funding to 100 odd people, and each of them would go off and place the bets, and then we'd split the profits. And at the time it was all online, and which meant that we could monitor it all through computer programs.
Yeah, it's very you, isn't it? Nothing face to face.
Manage
it all from your flat.
Yeah. And we would have recruiters who would go out to find these people who we could then do the deal with, basically. That's all well and good, but actually recruiting people is quite difficult. And as soon as they have their accounts closed, then that's it. They're out of the game.
And what does account close mean? Like, could you set up a different account for every email address you have?
No.
Or is it about you as an individual? Like, do you have to put in your date of birth and your, national insurance number or something that's just you?
Yeah. Often you'll have to send in pictures of your passport.
Right.
And if they're really suspicious, you might need to, send in a photograph of you holding your passport up to your face. And
Wow.
if they're really suspicious and a bit dodgy, you might need to go to a notary, like a lawyer, to sign something saying you are who you are.
Wow.
So.
But you had to do all of those?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, at different times. The more shady the bookmaker you're using, the more they'll try and hold on to your money at all costs.
Yeah.
So the more hoops they'll make you go through in order to get it out.
Yeah, because it's in their best interest to hold on to your money.
Yeah. And the big companies that you will have heard of won't really do any of that. Anyway, so there we were. Burning through accounts. The challenge basically of our business became recruitment rather than the actual finding the opportunities.
Which is not you at all.
And so one thing we thought that we could do is that in the UK, there's hundreds of sort of physical bookmakers. So shops you can go into and place the bet over the counter. And those places don't require you to give your ID. You don't need to open an account with them. So you can go in, you place a bet anonymously, and you get a little ticket back. And then if your bet wins, you go and you swap the ticket for your winnings. So we had this idea, why don't we take everything we're doing online and try and take it offline? Which is what we did. So we kind of tested the idea. We went round to a few different bookmakers to check whether the odds are the same as the ones they have online. And most of the time they are. And then we practiced placing a couple of bets. Yeah, seemed to work. Went to a few racetracks and placed the bets there. And then we thought, how can we roll this out? How can we make this profitable?
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the numbers. So we were making at about 7% of our turnover. So if I place £1,000 worth of bets, we would make about £70 off the back of that.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm going to hire you to go and place bets in different places, the question was, how much turnover do we need in order to be able to pay that person?
Yeah, and how much are you going to pay them?
To do it, yeah. Well, how much do you think you should pay someone to go around placing bets for you?
Well, percentage of the income that you're getting. Not the full 7%. Maybe half? I don't know.
Yeah, but bear in mind, the income isn't set, so their bets might lose that day or might win.
Yeah, well, it's an average of 7%, right?
Yeah, so we average 7% of turnover. Yeah. And then how much do you pay like the managers? So let's say you got a group of 20 odd people going and like runners going and placing the bets. Who's going to manage them? Who's going to manage the cash flow? And kind of what it turned out is we need to turn over quite a lot of money in order to make it worthwhile. So somewhere between £5,000 and £10,000 per person. Per runner, basically.
Day?
Per day.
Whoa!
So and that would make the equivalent of, so £5,000 would make about £350, of which the runner would need to get paid, the manager would need to get paid. There need to be some sort of margin for like loss and mistakes, because we average 7% online where everything happens. What happens if they have their tickets and they lose it or something?
Yeah.
Whose fault is that?
Or there's an issue with the money.
What happens if there's an issue with the money? What happens if the bookmaker refuses to do the bets? What happens if the guy robs us?
Yeah.
And just disappears? The other thing is that we were betting on horse races. So that means high odds. So if your bet wins, you win a lot of money.
Wow.
So of that £5,000, if that was placed in one bet, for instance, the odds might be 10 to 1, which means the winnings would be £50,000.
Yeah.
So actually managing the logistics of this kind of supply chain is quite complicated.
Yeah.
But we slowly put it together, and we'd have like a money manager who would run like a bunch of runners, we called them, who were the people who actually went and placed the bets.
Yeah.
At the beginning of each day, he would give them their float.
Yeah.
Like a big wad of cash, basically. They would then travel round to the different bookmakers, placing the bets. We had an app that we created, which would tell them exactly what bets to place.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so we built this app, and so they would have an app. It would tell them what to place. They'd place a bet. They'd click on the app, say, yes, I placed that bet. And then they'd have to take a photograph of the bet slip.
Yes.
To show
that they'd done it.
So they'd go around all day doing that. At the end of the day, they would get a list of which ones won and how much the winnings should be. And then they'd have to go around and collect all the winnings and then hand in the winnings to the money manager.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the network we put together. We'd have us kind of at the top running it through the app. We'd have our recruiters and money managers who would be basically getting paid to run a group of runners. And then they would have a territory, so an area that they dealt with, and they would just run through that area.
Sounds like a lot of work.
It's an absolute logistical nightmare. Like, it's a totally different set of skills to run a system like that. And the thing to bear in mind is, like, they were having to place bets of between £50 and £200 a go. So 100 bets of £50 would get them to 5,000. Like, that is a lot of bets in one day to place. Yeah. You can't go into one bookmaker and place £150 bets.
Yeah, you look really dodgy.
You'd look really dodgy. You can't go into one bookmaker and place one £5,000 bet because they just want to accept it. There's limits of it.
So, as someone who's never placed a bet, what's an average, like, spend? So, say I'd never walked into a bookies before and I started placing some bets. What would look like normal activity?
Like a £5.
Really, that low?
It's
and quite, what, 1 or 2?
It's quite unusual for someone they've never seen before to walk into that bookie and put down a large amount of money. Now, most bookies have a threshold. If you place a larger bet than whatever the threshold is, they've got to ring it through to like some traders back at head office to see whether they'll accept the bet.
And do you know what those traders use to approve or deny?
Probably a similar system to what we have. They'll check to see whether it's a smart bet or not. And then they'll say to the person, do you know the person? Are they a regular here?
Yeah.
Have they lost a lot of money? And then if all the answers to those are yes, they'll probably let them place the bet anyway. If the answers are no, they'll probably say, well, we can't take that bet, but we can give it at lower odds.
Wow.
Or they might say, no, ban this guy.
Wow.
Logistically, it's quite difficult. So the amount they were placing, we basically worked it out as like the type of bet. It's kind of an equation based on the type of bet. So they wouldn't, and it was more down to how much they could win. Because one of the things we found to begin with was sometimes we'd be able to put down a large bet and then it won and we'd go to the bookie to collect the money.
And they didn't have it.
They don't have enough money.
Yeah.
We've cleaned them out.
Yeah.
They'd have to call up for a van to come and deliver more money from head office.
Yeah, and that takes time.
Yeah. And that raises a lot of suspicions.
Can you collect your money any time? Does it have to be that day?
You can collect it any time as long as you've got your bet slip.
Yeah.
And what we could have done, but we decided not to because it would look even more suspicious to have someone different collecting the money to the actual person who placed the bet. So we kind of worked out, how much could we potentially win off these bets? That's how much we should go. And we had this kind of balance where they'd kind of hang out in the bookmaker for a couple of hours, place maybe 6 or 7 bets throughout that time.
Get chatting to the locals.
And then move on to the next one. It was down to areas as well. Like the main problems we had was when we went to like a little village or like quite a poor town, which are often the ones which have the most bookmakers.
Yeah.
And you're placing the biggest bet that they've ever seen.
Yeah.
They're used to the,
couple of pounds.
They're used to someone coming down with their pension and betting that. They're not used to a 20-something rolling up and getting this huge wad of cash out, placing like 5 bets on high odds horse racing.
Yeah. I was going to ask, what were the themes of the ones that you had the problems with? Like, did you find there was particular managers in particular branches that were always saying no? Or was it, more about the location?
Well, I'll go on to why we ended up closing it all down a bit later, which is when, disguises and stuff come in.
The what comes in?
Disguises. Because for the first few weeks, it was all kind of working out.
Yeah, you were making money.
Making money. Made some mistakes. We were building our network of runners. We were building up a bit more know-how about what bookies were good and which ones weren't.
How big was your network at the biggest point?
I can't remember. Maybe 20 people, something like that.
And that includes the money managers.
I can't remember. I didn't really monitor the runners. I just monitored the managers.
Yeah.
It was never huge.
Well, 20 people is a lot of people.
Yeah, and you're having to give them £5,000 in cash.
Yeah.
That's quite a trust. This is something else we haven't talked about, is how do you get the money out to pay this?
Yeah.
How do you have enough cash on hand to handle, let's say, 20 runners, each with £5,000 in cash?
Well, yeah, how did you start it? Because, it makes sense if you started with a couple of runners, you could get some cash out and then their winnings would then go to the next day. You could do it organically. But if you're talking within 3 weeks, you had 20 people.
I can't remember the time frame.
But roughly, I have absolutely no idea how you got enough cash.
I think we might have started with a float of something like £20,000 in cash.
Yeah, and how on earth did you get that out?
I think we just took it out. We just went to the bank and just took it out.
That sounds mental, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because in my head I'm thinking 4 of you rolling up to your high street bank and saying, I want $5,000.
Do you know what? Actually, that might be what we did.
Yeah.
We might have all got out $5,000 each.
Yeah.
I can't remember. It was obviously a problem we had and then we solved it. The sort of thing we would have done is we would have worked out what the threshold where they ask questions is.
Yes.
And then just done it below.
Yeah, and I suppose you all have multiple bank accounts. It's not
And the whole network of people would have been using our online service, so we would have been sending them a lot of money anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did so many monetary transactions in those days. It was ridiculous. I kept waiting for HMRC to come knocking to say, why have you had so much turnover? Why are you sending Bob down the council estate £5,000? Never happens. And we were set up for if it did.
Yeah.
Everything was completely legal.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're not doing anything illegal.
What we did have, though, is we did have bank accounts closed. Spoken about it before. One of the reasons I ended up quitting was because I just kind of had enough.
Yeah.
And just wasn't finding it fulfilling. And one of the reasons it wasn't fulfilling and fun anymore is because the level of annoyances got higher and higher and higher.
To get your money.
Yeah. Yeah, so we had this network of bettors who would go round to different places. The problem we had is that they don't see the full picture. So, let's say you're a runner.
Yep.
We're paying you maybe £100 for a day's worth of work.
Yep.
Not a bad amount of money. Then we're giving you £5,000 in cash.
What kind of hours are you talking? Like, when would you typically start? Like, I assume you can't go into a bookies at 9 a.m.
Well, you can.
Well, I mean, to look not so suspicious.
Basically, it was between kind of 1 and about 6.
Yeah, okay. So for 5 hours worth of work, £100.
And that was more down to when the racing was on.
Yeah.
And sometime in a year, it was earlier. Like, it would finish at 4, then in the summer it would finish later.
And the other thing is, did you and the team have to manually put into that app which bets to bet on?
No, it was all automated.
It was all automated, okay. So you didn't have to be on the app between 1 and 6 every day, making sure that everything was running?
No, but there would be problems occasionally.
Yeah, I'm sure there'd be problems, but I just mean on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Yeah. So going back to, you pay me £100 for these 5 hours.
I give you £5,000 in cash.
Yeah.
You go and place the bets. You then go and collect the money at the end of the day. And let's say you've been lucky and now you've collected £20,000 worth in cash. And you're only getting £100.
Yeah. It seems
that seems so unfair.
Yeah.
They don't realise that actually the average profit per day spread over everyone and over months is £350.
And would you say that?
We didn't tell them what our margin was, but people don't think like that.
Yeah, I know.
Like, it takes a long time to be able to get your head round high variance gambling, basically, like profitable gambling. And the runners, like, just didn't understand that.
Especially the ones that were successful. The ones that were placing bets that were earning lots of money and also being able to collect the money.
Yeah.
You think, well, I'm doing well, so I should be getting paid more.
Yeah, because they're only seeing a very small section of the story.
Whereas the ones that are more like 50-50, winning and losing, maybe they get a better idea of what it's like to be a professional gambler.
The other problem we had was that the amount you're meant to win is not always what you do win.
What?
So there's a few instances where the bookies will pay out a different amount to what it should be.
Did you know this before?
Yes. It's just very hard to calculate. The app pops up and says you're meant to be collecting £350. They go in and they get £365. Someone might think to themselves, oh, well, I'll pocket that £15.
Yeah, and no one will know.
And no one will know.
Yep.
And I think that happened to us. It's hard to know for definite, but we weren't making the 7% that we should make.
Interesting. And that's one of the things you put it down to.
That's one of the things I put it down to.
Because I assume if you can get paid £15 more, you can also get given £15 less.
So there's kind of two instances where you'll get paid a different amount kind of legitimately. So one of them is called a Rule 4 exception, which means that if a horse has been withdrawn from the race, they lower all the odds.
Yeah.
And how they do that is quite hard to calculate.
Yeah.
And we kind of did it, but it wasn't exact.
Yeah.
Like, there would be a little bit of variance there. And then the other one, a lot of places had what they call like a best odds guarantee. So that if the race started and the odds had changed, it got better, they would give you the better odds from when you placed the bet. But not all bookies have it.
Honoured it.
And not all bookies have it on all horses.
Yes.
And on all races. So again, that's quite hard for us to calculate.
And did those two things kind of equal out?
They equal out better.
Yeah.
They equal out that you get paid more than you think you're going to get paid.
Yeah. So that should mean...
It was quite hard for us to know exactly how much we should be getting.
Well, yeah, it means that you should be getting over the 7%.
No, that's how the 7% includes all that.
Okay.
Because when we're doing it online, we get the actual statement from the bookie. So you can look at the account statement and it tells you how much you've won per race. So when we're calculating our profit over a few years, we can just take our whole turnover and then work out exactly how much profit we've made. And we can monitor that on like a day-to-day basis and stuff. So yeah, so we're getting overall with what we call the Sharbing, shop Arbing. We're making less than 7%. We were having some grumpy
Staff
runners because they think they should be getting paid more than they are.
Yeah.
It's quite a logistical challenge. And then the bookies started banning us.
Yep.
So they would say...
Banning individual runners.
Yes. When they went to collect their bets, they would get given the money and they said, if you place a bet with us again, we won't honour it anymore. You're not allowed to.
Well, at least they paid you and said that. They could have said, we're not paying out.
They probably couldn't have done that, no. That probably would have been illegal for them to not pay out at all.
What does it mean to be banned from one place? Like, is that the whole chain?
Well, that's a good question. So how do you get banned from a place where they don't know your name?
Yeah.
So the first thing our guys would do was just go around the corner to the next bookie.
Yeah.
And place a bet there. And sometimes that would work. Sometimes they could go, oh, I know about you. You're not allowed to place a bet here.
Yep. Just based on their appearance and what they're doing, their actions.
So what it turned out the bookies do is they have a photo of you from their CCTV, which they'll then distribute to all the nearby bookies. Not just the same brand, but so whatever,
So
Coral will give it to William Hill, and then they'll print out, stick it on the wall next to the counter and says, if this person tries to place a bet with you, don't let them.
Wow.
And it's a remarkably efficient system because we would have our guy place a bet in one town, drive an hour and a half to another town, and then they'd recognise him there.
Wow.
Which is pretty mental, really.
Yeah.
And I think with the picture, they'd also have like the betting patterns, you know, placing bets around whatever £100 on horses.
The only thing I can liken that to is when I used to work at Waitrose at university. I used to work on the welcome desk some of the time, and we had a little walkie-talkie that would go off if there's been like thefts in the area, so that you get a description of who the thieves were, so that then you could try and spot them coming into your shop. And it wasn't, these reports weren't coming from other Waitrose, they were coming from other shops.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really nice for the community.
Yeah, and nightclubs will do that as well. That if you get banned from one nightclub for fighting or something, the bouncers will radio around to all the other ones and tell them not to let you in. And they do with bookies, so if we're too clever for them, they can ban you. And so the way we got around it was kind of by cycling runners a bit more, moving runners around a bit more, having longer delays between placing bets. It just became just a bit too much of a nightmare.
Yeah.
We weren't making that much money out of it.
And what about the disguises?
Well, yeah. How do you do it? Is you wear a different hat when you go in. You don't shave for a week and then you try it again. You go in wearing like something really obvious. Whatever, you have a guy in a dress. So then that's like the main characteristic everyone recognise, and then next time you dress something completely different.
What are some of the silliest things people did? The dress sounds hilarious.
That never happened, but I'm more trying to illustrate the point of, you know, if you go in with a top hat, then they're going to recognise the top hat, and probably not the face underneath the top hat. Yeah, just stuff like that. It never really worked out that well. They still recognise you. Something else we tried is we thought, why don't we go to somewhere where I assume people are going to be placing big bets?
So wealthier towns.
So we went around like the City of London,
you
know, where all the bankers are. Surely the bankers go out with their bonuses and throw down big money. Turns out they don't. You go into the ones next to the big banks and they're still just like a normal bookie with like normal looking people placing not that high bets. Yeah, the limits are probably slightly higher than in a tiny town somewhere else, but they're not what you see in the films.
Well, I guess a bookie is for the locals, and if you're working in the City of London and you're a banker, you're not a local. You don't live there.
Yeah.
You want to find out where those bankers live.
Yeah. And I assume they're probably all just online nowadays. Like, there's not really much need for you to go into a bookie. You can do it from your phone, or I think it's a bit of an older generation, or like the young lads wanting to show off to their mates. It's really funny because you go into them and you'd talk to like one of the guys, because they're quite friendly. They'll come round.
They're there for a chat, aren't they?
As in the staff.
Oh, right.
Like the staff will come round. They go, "Do you want a cup of tea?" Yeah, right. Toby loved it. Loved getting cup of teas and all the different bookmakers.
I can imagine.
Bring in a cup of tea, stop and have a chat. And then often they'd start telling you about like the smart bettors. Oh, there was a guy who comes around here, I recognise, and I think he's doing something called like arbitrage or something. I don't really understand it. Or they'd have it's really funny because they have all these theories about what the smart bettors are doing.
But they were all wrong.
Yeah, they just don't
they don't know enough.
They don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
They don't know why this person isn't allowed to bet or what they're doing wrong. He's trying to give you tips as well. Like, there's one guy I remember in particular. This was right by Liverpool Street Station. There's like an underground bookmaker just there, and he was giving us tips about he says, what I think the smart guys do who we have to ban is I think they look for when the odds start changing really quickly, and then they place a bet. And he's telling us all these strategies. It's just really interesting.
Aww. So is that the term in the business, a smart better?
You know what? I don't know what the bookies call it. They probably have something a bit less complimentary.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they use in the privacy of the trading room or something. But I think on their documents and stuff, maybe they'll call it a problem better or something.
Yeah. Sounds quite complimentary.
Yeah. Well, and the implication is that everyone who isn't is a stupid bettor.
Well, yeah.
So they don't want to insult their customers.
Yeah.
By saying that, they don't want to say, if you're smart, we'll ban you. They want to say, no, we only ban the problem gamblers. And you immediately think, gambling problem, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's my story about Sharbing. It's quite in detail, really. Like, it was quite, we did so many things where we put like a lot of work into it. We built quite complicated systems, both of people and of technology. So think about this, we had to have like the app, we had to have do all the money management side of it, we had to do like the recruitment process, we had to do like the HR side we had to do the legal side. Like, one of the big issues we had is trying to work out, do we owe VAT on our share of the profits?
Yeah.
So gambling winnings themselves aren't taxable. So if you go and place a bet, you get to keep the winnings. But then if I've given you the money and you've gone and placed a bet and then you've given me that.
Yeah, it's not taxable.
Is that taxable? And more than that, if it is taxable, then do we need to pay VAT on it?
Yeah.
Because in that case, it'd be 20% of turnover, which we're only making 7% of turnover.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't make no sense. So again, we found there'd been a case with someone similar who had like a series of runners who went to court over it, and it got ruled he didn't owe VAT.
Great.
So that was good.
So you used that as a basis of legal case.
We decided to pay taxes even though we thought we probably shouldn't. So we ran all our profits through a company, and that company paid corporation tax.
Yeah. And
then we paid dividend tax on anything we took out of that.
Yeah.
So even though the gambling winnings probably weren't taxable, we
did it anyway.
Yeah, we just did loads of things like that. Sharbing was one of them. I've talked about a few other stuff in other podcasts, all quite complicated. But we were running a pretty big business at that point. But it just became so much hassle. A lot of things will kind of work out, kind of not work out. You got to be quite driven to make all this sort of stuff work. I mean, this opportunity's still out there. You can go into a bookmaker now and place the smart bets.
Yeah.
They still exist. But in order to make it really worthwhile,
a regular income,
you're going to have to be placing a lot of bets, or really high value bets. in which case you'll probably get banned quite quickly.
Yeah.
In order to make it a business rather than just like a personal income, you've got to be running a syndicate of runners to place the bets for you to get enough turnover away for you to make serious money. And then that's got a whole extra level of problems with it. Yeah. Something else we do is we go to racetracks. Like a big race meet like Ascot would work well because there's so much turnover there, they don't really track it that well.
Yeah.
But there aren't that many big race meets where it's worth paying the runners entrant fees and transport and food for the day and all that kind of stuff.
Whoa, is that what you would do?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, because you basically got an employee who's going off to
work.
Yeah.
See, I imagine you all in top hats, drinking and having a great time, not really seeing it as work.
Well, the trials, that's exactly what we did. I went to Ascot to practice it, to work out whether it would work in principle. Took a big wad of cash from me. I've told this story before because on the way home, I had a pocket full of £50 notes and I had to like split it. And so we're like, I can't get this out in the middle of Waterloo Station. So we paid the 50p or whatever to go to the bathroom and all went into like one toilet stall to divvy up the money.
Whoa, it's so dodgy. The life of a professional gambler.
Very glamorous. Waterloo Station toilets.
Bet that stunk.
I think we were a bit distracted at that point. Do you see why this reminded me a bit of the franchise stuff that we've been talking about recently?
I was just thinking of saying, this is really sounding like the franchise that we're trying to set up.
So we're trying to set up a franchise system for Pipehouse Gin, which is our craft gin business. And the way that would work is we would give territories to people so they can go and sell our gin in those areas where they would do
events. Yeah,
where they would go to events and do market stalls and festivals and things like that. And they would effectively be buying the gin off us at a cheaper price and selling it for a markup and keeping the profit. It's very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was doing all the gambling stuff, I kept thinking I'm completely unemployable, like none of these skills are transferable. Actually, they really are.
Yeah.
Especially once you get into it running it as a business rather than as like a personal.
Yeah, and that's why I asked things like asking more information about the app, like how much input did you have to have on a daily basis? Like, it's very clever that it ran.
So our technology was really complicated for a few reasons. So one thing we had to do was monitor the prices of all the horse racing on one bookie. So let's say there's 20 horse races in the day. So that's 20 pages we'd have to monitor. So that, if you think about it, that's literally just going on the website, refreshing the page, taking the information, putting it into a database. Straightforward. Now we needed that information updated more than once a second.
Whoa.
So that means that this bookmaker, I've got to request information from it on 20 different pages multiple times a second.
Whoa.
Now the bookmakers don't like you doing that, so they block your IP address if you do that. So what we'd have to do is we'd have to have a network of computers on different IP addresses, all requesting different pages on each of the websites, and then taking all the information, putting it into one database. Yeah.
Wow.
And then if they change anything on the website, we'd have to rewrite our software.
Yes.
Just go do it. And that's one of the simplest problems that we had. So sometimes you need to log in order to see the information. So we have to log in. But now they've got a captcha. So how as a software do you have to get past the captcha? So we had...
What does a captcha mean?
You know, where it's like, are you a robot? And it's got like, write this phrase.
Yep.
And it'd be like C3 9p with like lines over it. So how do you write that how do you get programs to do that? Well, it's there to make sure you're a human.
Yeah, and you're not.
So how do you get around that? So what we'd do is, the thing would try and log in, captcha comes back, we would then send that to a freelancer who would then input it manually. We'd pay that freelancer a penny or something, and then that would then log in, let the system log in, But this all needs to happen within 5 or 6 seconds.
Yeah.
Or else the capture time's out and your login attempt's done. So that's another problem we had.
Wowzers. And you could use one freelancer to do that?
No, we had a really big network of freelancers who would work on that.
And is it almost like they would bid, whoever responded to it would get paid for it?
Yeah, exactly.
Wowzers.
Yeah, it's really complicated. And I'm still on like some of the other stuff is even more complicated than that. Like there was a lot of...
Yeah, I'm sure.
Like,
but these are just the things that you can explain quite simply.
Yeah, we had so many issues and stuff. Another issue we had is, so I mentioned that Bookie and Liverpool Street Station is underground. We've only got no signal for your app.
Yeah.
That was a problem. Or you upload a picture and it doesn't go through because you've got no signal. Anyway, I think that's enough of talking about this. We've talked for ages on what was meant to be quite a short episode. But I think this is the first gambling one where I've gone into quite detail of it all. And the only reason I've really done that is because I don't have any friends still doing this exact thing.
Yeah.
Whereas some of the other stuff, which I haven't wanted to speak about in too much detail, is because although I've stopped doing it now, I still have friends doing it and I don't want to trim their toes too much by giving away any...
Yeah, but the thing with this is
secrets.
like, okay, you don't know anyone doing it, but is it a lot easier to explain what you were doing?
Yeah, because you can visualise the people running around.
Exactly. You can visualise the piles of cash moving around.
Yeah.
This sounds so ridiculous.
Yeah. Talking of which, if anyone out there is a film producer and wants to make a film of our silly gambling thing, please get in touch.
What a silly thing to end this podcast on.
Alright, well, apart from that, thanks for listening. We're Sam and Emma. You can message us at hello@sampriesty.com. All the show notes at sampriesty.com. I'll put links to the other podcasts where we've talked about other sort of professional gambling stuff that we've done before. If you're interested in getting into professional gambling, match betting is the place to start. That is pretty simple. It's where you take advantage of the free bets that are offered at bookmakers. It's pretty easy to get your head around and it's hard to mess up. So I'll put a link to like a little guide for that on the in the show notes. But apart from that, thanks for listening and goodbye.
Adios.